Hi, welcome to my channel update video with a PowerPoint made by Sinwife. She had a lot of fun making this, as you can see. So I haven't uploaded to YouTube in about a year, and well, I guess technically I have uploaded to YouTube in the past year, but the way it works is that when I export VODs from Twitch onto YouTube, they exist in a format that I can see them, but you guys can't, and I make like thumbnails and descriptions and chapters and stuff like that, and I put all that info in, make it public, and then you guys see them. And that part hasn't been happening for the past year. What was leading up to this was, particularly through February of last year, I was experiencing a backlog of streams that I was getting lazy about uploading, essentially, and I was getting further and further behind in my upload schedule from when I was like recording them. So streams were being uploaded like a week late, and then like 2 weeks late, and then it was getting more than that, and that was getting very, very stressful for me, because it's like I have this big backlog and I'm still recording streams in the meantime, adding to that backlog. So even if I'm like, taking care of that backlog, I'm just adding right back to it. And this was leading to a lot of stress that I was just carrying with me, even into my streams. And it was really affecting my stream quality to the level that I really felt like I wasn't carrying myself to the standard I want to be at when I'm making content for you guys. My commentary was lacking. I was so preoccupied with a lot of stressful thoughts that I wasn't really engaging in the way that I want to be. And maybe you guys thought it was fine, but it's up to me to hold myself to a standard that I have for myself, and I wasn't hitting it. I wasn't meeting that standard, so I had to pull back a lot. Essentially, I was just overwhelmed, and I wasn't going to get better by just powering through it and exhausting myself. So that's why I pulled back so heavily on streaming and stopped publishing stuff on YouTube. So a lot of this has to do with anxiety I've been dealing with about my age. When I started Twitch, I was 23 approaching 24. I'm now 27 approaching 28. And that left me with a lot of anxiety. Because I can't consider myself to be in my mid-20s. I'm approaching my 30s, and that feels freaky. And especially for someone like me, because I feel like most people by the time they're approaching their 30s have some semblance of a foundation in their life, and I feel like I don't have something like that. I did like a year of community college and then dropped out because of mental health issues, essentially. I had one real job and didn't even do that for particularly long. I co-founded a string quintet after high school with a friend from the orchestra that I knew there, and that was going for a while, and it was like this big passion project of mine, and Sinwife was part of that. She played viola. She was really cool, but that ended up falling apart after my co-founder, for reasons I won't get into, ended up quitting, and the group could not continue. During the pandemic, I also tried learning how to code, like I'm sure a lot of people did, but it wasn't really clicking with me. I don't know, just something about that coding mindset just didn't jive with me or whatever, and I really struggled to keep up in trying to practice that. So that didn't really become a viable route either. And over the course of my adult life, I've developed a lot in my fantasy world that I have, and I've done some stuff with Dungeons and Dragons with ResDog and our friend Jojo. We've done campaigns set in this fantasy world that I've created, so there's some experience with storytelling and game design going on there. I even have some Google documents with video game concepts and stuff like that, but with no ability to actually make them and stuff like that. It's all kind of just theory, and none of this really translates to real life stability and stuff like that. So you may have heard me say this before, but I'm not kidding when I say it. Twitch is genuinely the most success I've ever had with any kind of venture I've had in my life, which is cool, but also a little bit anxiety inducing for someone like me. So, what's up with that whole anxiety depression thing? Well, it's not going great, as you might imagine. About a year ago, when I pulled back on streaming and stuff, I made a long-ass post in the Discord. To roughly sum it up, like I've already talked about, I was very stressed and overwhelmed with a lot of things, and I reduced my streaming schedule to basically streaming with Sinwife and the D&D streams whenever those would happen. I still would do Together Tuesday with ResDog, but I wasn't recording my end of it anymore because of the mental load that I was under. And then I also just stopped publishing things on YouTube. This basically summarizes how I felt. I was trying to push through, and I just couldn't anymore. Now you may be thinking like, hey, Sin, weren't you taking like some medication for all this stuff? And you're right, I was. I was even referred to a psychiatrist last year, and they prescribed me a higher dose of medicine so that I could start feeling the effects a bit more and stuff like that. That was helpful for a while, I suppose, but we ended up running into a bit of an issue because behind the scenes, we ran into issues with actually scheduling appointments with the psychiatrist. You know, it was like a case of like, we would schedule an appointment and the appointment day would come, and then, you know, I'd check my email that day and it's like, oh, I got an email from the clinic and the appointment was canceled, and that sucked. And that happened multiple times, which left me feeling kind of bitter, left me feeling a bit, well, dejected and helpless, I think is the best phrasing, and even to some extent nihilistic, you know. And I'm not trying to throw shade at the psychiatrist, things happen, but point was I wasn't getting the help I needed, and that really sucked. Good news, I have now met with a new psychiatrist, and she seems really awesome. I've really enjoyed my appointment that I had with her about a week and a half ago at the time of this recording. And she prescribed me some new medicine, and I've been taking it for about a week now. You know, it's still too early to say for sure whether or not the medication's doing anything. It takes time to figure these things out. And, you know, I've only met with her once. You know, we don't know how follow-up appointments are gonna go, so we'll have to wait and see. But we're on the upward path here, and that's good. In the meantime, it's also been very helpful to have friends in my life. ResDog has been making a point of coming over about every other week to just hang out and be a friend, and that's been really nice. He's not a replacement for medication or therapy, but having a friend always helps, right? Because it really does help to know that I have a best friend that cares about me, even when I've not really opened up to him a whole lot about, you know, what's been going on. He knows he doesn't really necessarily get a lot of the issues I'm dealing with, but he's not there to try to pry me open. He's there to just be a friend, and that's been super awesome of him. A similar story for Sin Wife. She's been very, very supportive, and I love her very, very much. I honestly don't know what I would do without her, because oh my god, the amount of support she does for me is amazing. She's a wonderful wife, a wonderful spouse. She means the world to me, and honestly, one of my bigger goals with mental health is I want to get to a better place so that I can actually express my love for her even more in a deeper way. Because one of the things that really sucks about anxiety and depression is how it suppresses your ability to feel and express emotions properly. And I want to get to a place where I could feel a deeper sense of love and appreciation for her and express that to her. Because I know she knows I love and appreciate her, but I want to be able to express that in a stronger and more meaningful way than I currently can. And that's honestly one of my bigger goals here on a personal note. So what now? Well, for you guys, maybe nothing, at least nothing huge. I'm not coming back to a full streaming schedule yet. It's too soon for that. I would like to return to a bigger streaming schedule at some point, but work has to be done in the meantime. And a lot of that work is dealing with that backlog I was talking about. You know, I've got to make those thumbnails. I got to publish those VODs on YouTube. And probably what's going to happen is I'm going to upload those VODs in groups. What I used to do is let's say I would record a stream and then export it to YouTube, and then like the next day I would make a thumbnail and description and stuff like that, and then I would publish that on YouTube and let it sit there for like a full day, sometimes more, just to give it like that breathing room, so it's like, oh, people can appreciate this VOD before the next one gets uploaded, right? I don't think that's going to be a viable method anymore. I think we're going to have to upload them in chunks. Now, whether or not I do a series at a time, like a string of Zelda videos or Pikmin videos or whatever, or let's say all the VODs from like a singular month all at once, I don't know how it's going to work. Things will happen when they happen, right? And on that note, I ask of you to please be patient with me. It's been a year and I haven't published stuff on YouTube, right? I've done barely any of this work. I think I've made like a thumbnail in that time. So I'm gonna have to kick my ass into gear in order to make any of this happen. And it's going to take time. So please bear with me. These VODs will eventually get there, but it'll take time. Now let's talk about Zelda a little bit. For the first 3 years of my channel, I was streaming Zelda games, and then about a year ago, I kind of abruptly stopped. So that seems like a weird thing to do, right? Because like Tears of the Kingdom was a relatively new game, and I was streaming that at the time. So it's like, that's weird to like not capitalize on the recency bias with that type of game and how there was a lot of hype for it. Similarly, Echoes of Wisdom came out last year, and you know, brand new Zelda game, perfect time to hop on and get that Zelda hype crowd going, and I just I didn't play it, didn't stream it, and a lot of you might be thinking that's really weird for someone who kind of built their channel off of doing a lot of Zelda games. And well, it's basically because I love Zelda so much, but I haven't done Zelda in the past year. Like I've said before, anxiety and depression really suppress your ability to feel and express emotions properly, and I don't want to stream Zelda and not express my love for it. I want to be able to share my love for Zelda lore, puzzles, game mechanics, game design, music, story themes, all the things that make Zelda amazing, right? Because there's so many beautiful and wonderful things about that series. And I remember recording Tears of the Kingdom streams last year, and it's not that I was like not enjoying the game, because I was, but I wasn't really able to share like how cool certain things were. I wasn't able to share this like passion and joy, right? And that's something I'm very concerned about. And I don't think it's healthy to force myself to just power through it, right? Because then I'm just going through the motions, and then I'm not really delivering the standard that I want to do, right? Like I mentioned earlier, I want to be able to share passion with you guys. And in order to do that, I need to be in a better mental health state. And when it comes to Zelda, this is my goal. Get to a healthier place so I can at least express passion for Zelda so that we can all bask in the joy of such a game. Well, now there's a certain divine beast in the room. Divine Beast Varuta, the elephant. So perhaps the biggest way I've been experiencing a lot of anxiety and stress has to do with my gender identity. So I guess I'll just go ahead and say it. I am trans. So that means I was assigned male at birth, and for me, that means I feel like I was kind of growing up in a body that I'm not very comfortable with when I prefer more feminine things. I want to be more feminine. I like feminine things. I enjoy feeling feminine, and I want to be referred to as such, right? So I'm a trans woman specifically. So let's talk about that. Now, a lot of you guys might be surprised I'm even doing a coming out video, because you guys have been seeing all of this, right? I did these e-girl streams. I had the trans flag in my freaking Blue Sky and Twitter accounts and stuff like that. You know, there were signs. Some of you might be like the Pikachu over there, and that's okay, because you know what? I love and respect you either way. But like, look, I haven't really been too open about this. But I also appreciate that you guys haven't really been pressuring me to explain like, hey, what's going on? Or, you know, why do you sometimes wear makeup and stuff like, why do you sometimes do these e-girl streams and stuff like that? You guys have largely just been like, oh, cool, you know, Sin just does stuff and they're cool. And, you know, there wasn't really a lot of pressure about stuff. I really appreciate that. And I further appreciate that I've also cultivated a generally more progressive audience that is very cool on social issues and stuff like that, and you guys have been super awesome. You may be wondering, because sometimes when people have a coming out like this, especially when they're trans, there can sometimes be like a rebranding that happens. There's not going to be a rebranding here, at least not at this time. I'm still Sin Death, right? And you can still call me Sin. I actually kind of like it when you call me Sin. It's kind of fun, but don't worry, you can still call me Sin. There's not going to be this, at least online, there's not going to be this big name change. I just want this to be an era of increased openness and honesty, because this has been true about me since longer I've been streaming, but I just have been quiet about it. And now it's all out in the air, and I want it to be known, that we could talk about it and get to know each other better. That way you know where I'm coming from and vice versa, right? Because I've always felt weird when I would talk about like gender related issues or trans issues and stuff like that, because I always talk about it in like the abstract, like, oh, it's, you know, something that affects trans people out there, when sometimes it's really about how this affects trans people like me, and how, oh yeah, sometimes trans people might feel this type of way because I feel that way, right? And I want to be able to impart my own personal experience a little bit more into these types of things instead of just being this kind of abstract thing. I guess some personal stuff around this. I came out to my family in June of last year, and things largely went fine. You know, I was largely accepted by my immediate family and even my extended family. My friends have known for a while, especially ResDog and Sinwife. They're the people who know me the best. They've known me the longest. They've known for years, right? All major sectors of my family, extended family, and even Sinwife's family have also been very awesome on this stuff, very loving and accepting of me being trans. Even to the point that I've attended several family functions while presenting fem. them, and there wasn't any judgment or fear. You know, they just accepted me. They treated me like I was a member of the family, and that's all I really wanted. An extra shout out here for some awesome people here that I've met through Twitch. There's 3 people I've been able to confide in privately that I've met through Twitch about this type of stuff, and I want to give a little bit of shout out to them. Lil Lady Red, Grey Cat Cafe, and Dez. These people are awesome. I was comfortable enough with them to talk about the fact that I'm trans with them and just share that information, right? And they're super awesome. If you're looking for maybe some creators on Twitch who are very cool with trans people, I can personally vouch for these 3 people. You should go check them out. I will have information about these 3 awesome people in the description of this video so you can go check them out. Red, Grey, Dez, I love you. Now, there's been another thing about my life that I've been very quiet about that I now want to actually be open about. There's not really an easy way to say this, so I'll just go ahead and get to it. I was raised in the Mormon church, and I was active in that church up until about 2 years ago. And a lot of my family members are still practicing members of it, at least my extended family is. And I want you guys to know that my involvement in this church was pretty genuine. I actually believed in this whole gospel of love thing that this Jesus guy talked about, and that really motivated me to participate. I wasn't being coerced into this, it was very genuine. Now, with me being trans, you might understand that there's a lot of mental friction that goes on there when you are attending a church like this and you know your identity's at odds with that. And I knew at some point there would have to come a point where I could just no longer be there. And so I kind of eventually decided to fade away from my attendance in the church. I'm not interested in debating the merits of the church at this time, but I do want to be able to free myself to talk about it on my own terms, right? Even though I make edgy jokes, and we can make edgy jokes about the Mormon church, I have no qualms about that. I'm not interested in being needlessly antagonistic towards people who have a genuine faith in God, Jesus, Allah, whatever, right? It shouldn't matter to the rest of us, right? All that really matters is whether or not people are choosing to be a good person. And if someone's a good person, who cares what they actually believe when it comes to spirituality? That being said, I do hope that me being honest about my upbringing here can bring some potency to my speech when I talk about bigots exploiting religion to justify hateful attitudes towards others, because that stuff has always bothered me, and it will continue to bother me because I remember reading about this Jesus guy and how he said, love thy neighbor, and how he really did not like hypocrites who would take religious text and twist it and use it to justify hateful attitudes towards others. He wasn't very big on that type of thing, and I remember that, and I still keep that with me. So yeah, I guess that's kind of my thoughts on that. Now let's talk about the other elephant in the room. You know, I was hoping I wouldn't have to talk about this in my coming out video, but given how the election went this past November, that choice has kind of been ripped away from me.
Hey Billy, what was your favorite Game Grumps episode? I really like the one where Aaron talked about macaroni for a long time.
Now, I don't want you guys to worry, because I know I have a tendency on stream to sometimes go on these long political rants. This is not going to be another Sindef rants about politics for a long time type of moment. It's not that. I'm just trying to acknowledge this, because it's too damn important to ignore. Because look, let's be honest, things don't look great for the trans community. And this does affect my mental health, which obviously affects my content, right? The Republican Party and the current president are actively engaging in activity that puts the transgender community in danger. Being trans is political, unfortunately. It shouldn't have to be, but it is. The Republican Party villainizes many groups, and trans people are one of their main targets. It's like trans people and immigrants. It really sucks. I'm not going to cover all the different executive orders, all the different bills and stuff like that. That's going to take too much time, but it should be mentioned because you guys should know about this type of stuff, right? I will continue to talk about political issues in the future, especially around trans and queer issues, but like I said, I'm not going to bury this video with a bunch of political information and stuff like that. I mostly want to acknowledge this because a lot of the political moment right now is about how the trans community is facing active oppression from a fascist state, and that negatively impacts my mental health. Because that negatively impacts my mental health, it's going to affect my streams, it's going to affect my ability to upload on YouTube and stuff like that, and that sucks. I really wish I didn't have to bring this up here, but I can't ignore it. Expect me to acknowledge the reality of this from time to time. But in the meantime, we're gonna have to take care of each other, okay? The world might be against us, but we will move forward. Now, I know I dropped a lot of lore on you guys right now, and you might be wondering, what do you do with this information? You don't need to do anything. You just need to keep being cool because that's what you guys are. Now, this is a lot to process, I'm sure, and you might have a lot of questions. Good. I want you to keep those questions. Maybe write them down or put them in like your phone or something to help you keep track of whatever questions so that you can come by for a special stream I will be doing most likely the day after this is being uploaded. It'll be this Saturday, March 8th, and I will be streaming with Sinwife and later Red's Dog, where we will just be discussing everything we talked about here. And so I want you to come by and ask any question you have, whether it be about trans stuff, the Mormon stuff, or mental health stuff, whatever it might be. Come by and ask, because I want to talk about anything and everything with you. Maybe there's something I forgot to mention. Maybe there's something you're just curious about. I'm okay with any of this because, like I said earlier, I want this to be an era of openness and honesty with each other. I want to be more open and authentic with you guys, and I hope you guys can do the same with me, okay? Anyways, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys at that stream, all right? Take care. Bye.